Morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you. How are you doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm great. Thank you for asking.
Awesome.
I guess we can just hop right into it. My first question for you is, what do you do with your time away from work?
I have two kids. I have a son who's 14 and a daughter who is almost 16. So
Awesome.
they keep me hopping.
Close
Um,
in age too, so
yeah. So lots of arguments.
yes, of course, of course. Yeah. I
Yep.
know all about that. Any hobbies or anything you guys like to do together?
We are outside people. As soon
Yeah.
as the weather is nice, we are gone. Trampoline parks, water parks, zoos, Great America.
Yes.
Um, yeah, all of that fun stuff.
That's awesome. And where are you located?
I am in Beloit, Wisconsin.
Okay. Awesome. Very
So yeah,
good.
we have to leave here for anything fun, but
Right. That's okay. Hey, outside is everywhere. So that doesn't,
yes.
you know, outside is definitely everywhere. So can you tell me a little bit about your education and work history that brought you to this company and how those experiences sort of molded you for it?
Yeah. I've been in recruiting, I mean, goodness, over 10 years now. I started at staffing agencies.
Okay,
So that stress is a whole lot different than this stress.
sure.
So I kind of lucked into a position at a local company for the trucking industry. And they were kind of the warm bodies in trucks sort of deal. My supervisor actually came over to Rail and recruited me over to Rail. And it's just been a blessing. We've almost got 5 years here, and it's such a different environment.
Yep.
So it's been wonderful.
So your recruiter worked with you at that local company and beforehand?
Yeah,
That's
yep. He
pretty
was
cool.
actually the safety director, and we were both like, this is not where it's at. He got recruited by Rail, so he came over and then he recruited me for about another month, and I finally made the move.
Was
So,
that Tim?
no, actually, that
No.
was Chris. His name was Chris.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. That's very cool though. It's cool that you guys were able to move together and share those experiences and
Yeah,
yeah. And
makes it
so
easier.
yeah, oh, absolutely. And knowing that coming from the culture you were at beforehand, he transitioned well, I'm sure it was easier for you to make
Yeah,
that move. So,
yeah.
yeah, very cool. And you said that they were kind of about warm bodies and trucks, which I get that. I've seen that and I know about it. How would you say that your approach now is different with rail?
Um, it's always kind of been, I take it very personally when I hire drivers. Obviously, I don't own the companies, but if I hire you, my name in my head is on the side of that truck.
Sure.
So I'm very careful and selective about, what I'm looking at and what the drivers are working with, and that they're going to be a good fit for us and we're going to be a good fit for them. So that's just kind of aided in that approach here,
Sure.
which just it leads to better retention, lower turnover
Oh
because
yeah.
we're making sure it's the right fit all around.
Right. Driving down the road like recruited by Nicole Rutledge.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
how cool would that be? No, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. So besides just recruiting, what has your primary goal been in your position? Like any specific goals you've tried to reach or anything like that?
I'm all about teamwork, so I want the entire team to do better.
Sure.
We've got 15, 16 recruiters, so a lot of my time, I'm lifting them up. I'm focusing on what their challenges are. They might be new to the industry, new to recruiting entirely.
Sure.
So a lot of that is just, in these days, you cannot make 200 calls a day and just stick to a phone. You got to look at social media, you have to text, you have to email, whatever the driver is comfortable with, you need to stick with what they're okay with.
Sure.
So it's a lot of just kind of enlightening them and showing them outside of the box ideas and kind of getting the whole team to perform better together.
Absolutely. And drivers are getting sometimes hundreds of phone calls
Yes.
a day.
Yes.
So I get that they would be more comfortable with a text or something. It's
Yeah.
easier to get back to you that way as well. So
Yeah.
that's good that you guys keep that in mind for your approach.
Yeah.
I I've done, this is obviously on the Red Line Report, and I do a whole section of recruiting roundup. And sometimes it's interviews, but sometimes it's just like tips that I've picked up
Yeah.
along the way from reading or, hearing from people. And we talk about that a lot, not only how you reach your drivers, but what time, I mean, there
Yes.
are times that are better for drivers that maybe don't go well with the office hours, but I mean,
Right.
it's all relative to the driver. But anyway,
Yeah. Yep,
Um,
I tell my drivers I work from home because they're like, well, what time do you close? I'm like, so fun fact, I don't. I just go in a different room. So I have my
yeah,
cell phone.
yeah,
So that's huge though. They park and then by the time they park, 7, 8 o'clock and nobody's open.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, I've heard that from, I mean, other companies as well. They're like, oh, we're trying to extend our hours, this and that. And I'm like,
yeah.
well, some recruiters, never stop. They're always on their phone. So I mean, whatever
Yep.
works best for you, but that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
What are some key components to your recruiting approach that you find to be especially successful?
I just make sure, it's a building a relationship. I find they're looking for work. What is not working where you are? Let's see how we can make that better for you. And then just staying in touch, doing what you say you're going to do and following up with it. Even if a
Yeah,
driver, I can't work with the driver for whatever reason, I'm letting him know this is what it is and this is when we can.
yeah,
So he knows what he needs to do. And then we do like the happy birthdays, happy 6 month work anniversary,
yeah,
thanks for the referral. So I think it's a lot of, I hear from a lot of drivers, my recruiter recruited me and then I never heard from them again.
yeah,
So, just empathize with them, make them a human because that's what they are. They're not a number.
yeah, yeah. And I hear that about driver ambassador programs as well. I'm sure you've heard of those, know about those.
Yep.
Those are pretty effective as well because drivers will stay in touch with one another. So it's
Yeah.
cool from your side on the recruiting side. Um,
We
that
have a Rail Shine page on
okay.
Facebook. And it's all about the drivers and they're keeping their trucks clean and
Yeah.
waxed. And so they share their pictures
Yeah.
but it's just a matter of pride,
Oh yeah. Million
So
milers. You post
yes.
those up, I'm sure. Yeah. Those are
Yep.
always awesome to hear about. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very cool. So what would draw your eye to a specific applicant? Like I know you said you look for people that will be a good fit for you to get ahead of turnover. I say this on like literally every interview, but some companies turnover is at over 100%, which still boggles my mind. That's
I
why I say it
know.
every time. So, what do you look for rail?
Um, the whole honesty gets you a long, long way. A driver that can just tell me, this is what I have going on, this is what I won't do, this is what I want.
Yeah,
It makes my job a little easier because you know what you want. And then the drivers that have things that they're dealing with, an accident or some kind of violations or a termination, you tell me up front and I will be up front right back with you.
right.
So it's the same qualities that drivers are looking for in a recruiter are the same qualities I'm looking for in a driver.
Awesome. Yeah,
You
definitely.
know, what we require, I'm pretty sure 120% we can reciprocate to them.
Right.
So I think if you show them that, they get to understand and then that builds that trust.
I would definitely say that, and I'm sure you would probably agree that right now it's a driver's market.
Oh, yes.
There's so many jobs, not enough drivers. Do you find that that has increased their willingness to be honest with you? Like in years past, like were they a little bit,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they are. It's funny because, we've been doing a lot more of the home dailies. Everybody wants to be home every day.
yes,
And now I'm getting the drivers in the areas that they have told me, nope, don't want that because I want to be home every day. So we call them with home daily. And then they're like, Nikki, I know last year I wanted home daily. This year I can only do 8 hour shifts and I need Thursday, Friday, Saturday off. So they know exactly what they want and they
yeah,
know it's out there. So that's been very interesting because they'll
yeah,
just say the first phone call, listen, I have a careless, reckless 3 years ago. This is what I had yesterday. I got fired a year and a half ago
yeah.
because they can. So
Yeah. So what can
yeah,
you do for me?
yeah,
I'm willing to
exactly.
work. So what can you do? Yeah. I
Yep.
mean, and that's what it takes. I mean, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but tens of thousands, out of service right now. So I mean, any of those
Yeah.
that you can get back is valuable, not only to your company, but just the industry. So I mean,
Right.
it's you're doing industry work here, not
Yes.
just yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
So what would you say separates rail from other carriers? What aspect do you use to sort of sell drivers on working there? I mean, I know you said that they're not just a number, which is wonderful, but is there anything
How?
kind of more specific or how? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right. So we do a lot of things for the drivers. Our pay plan is actually a performance-based pay plan. So
Okay.
drivers have the potential in that first year, they can give themselves up to 4 raises. So basically, they look at the last quarter, have you been on time? Are you safe? According to what you've done for the company, you raise your own pay. So they kind of toss that back over to the driver to control rather than us saying, well, the customer gave us a penny raise, so we're going to give you guys a half cent raise once a year.
Right.
Any other job, if you do well, you should get an increase. So we give that power back to the drivers. And then we do address to address mileage pay.
Okay.
So you hear a lot of companies, if you're empty, we don't pay you. If you're, zip code to zip code, and then you're missing 50 miles.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm hiring you as a driver, and this is what I tell my possible drivers is that if I'm hiring you to drive, you should be getting paid when you drive.
I agree. Yeah.
It could be that simple. And then we do profit sharing, and we also have a rail help fund.
Awesome.
Um, so that can be set up, there's so many things, especially with the pandemic, evictions or fires, all this, crazy stuff that you don't necessarily have set aside to plan for. Rail has a help fund that will help the drivers with that.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
definitely the extra mile. Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, and I've heard about, the whole debate on address to address versus you said zip code. I mean, I know how big a zip code is. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you definitely be missing out. So that's really great. And I'm sure drivers appreciate that.
Yes.
What would you say is the most common question you get from drivers? I know they always ask about pay and home time and whatever, but anything outside of that that you hear a lot.
I've been getting a lot more of, if I have a problem on the road and I call in, am I going to have to give them my birthday and my social and my truck number? Are they going to know who they're talking to? We limit like the planners and the dispatchers to 30, 40 drivers a piece tops. So, and I've pulled calls and listened to, one of my drivers having issues, and he calls in and he says, "Hey, this is Ed. Hey, Ed, what's going on?"
Yeah.
They know who you are, they know your story, they know your family. So it's much easier. Nobody wants to call and have to give 18 pieces of personal information
Yeah.
before they even know who they're talking to.
Right.
And that's a lot of the major companies are getting kind of to that level, and the drivers see that.
Yeah. They don't wanna have to tell their social to get a tire fixed that popped on the
Exactly.
side of the road. Yeah, they're kinda worried
Yeah.
about other things right now, so
Yes. Or
yeah,
they've got 3 planners managing and they talk
right.
to one and the other two have no clue what's going on and they do it all again. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and
that
they're like,
gets frustrating.
I'm just trying to get off the road." Like, yeah,
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, I get that.
Safely.
Yeah. Yeah, safely, I know, it's so dangerous. Anytime I'm on the interstate or anywhere and I see a trucker pulled off in distress,
Yeah.
I'm always just like, "Oh my gosh," like, I I
Yes.
worry, you know what I mean? Because you don't know if they're getting out of the truck or if they're in it or
Yeah.
it's very stressful,
Yeah.
so I definitely understand wanting good service in a time of need for sure.
Yes. And then you teach people around you. Like my mom, for
Oh, yeah.
example, she during the pandemic, she goes to Walmart about once every day and she'll see truckers that are stopped and that can't clearly get into the store.
Right.
She goes and grabs Wendy's and takes it over to them. My
Yeah.
daughter's a recruiter. I know you can't get in.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
oh
yeah.
goodness.
I know, it's sweet, and here on the road, it's a law. If any car is off on the shoulder, you have to get into the middle or far left lane, or the opposite lane. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's a law here. I don't know
Yeah.
about anywhere else, but it's definitely enforced. Like if a cop has someone pulled
Yeah.
over, and you stay in that lane next to them, they will leave who they pulled over and come get you. So it's
Wow.
good. It's good that that's happening, especially for truck drivers, I think. So uh,
Yes.
yeah. So we kind of mentioned, the drivers market and all that, and new drivers coming in as well, younger generation. We're
Mhm.
trying to, because the current age of drivers, they're getting ready to retire. So a lot of them are.
Yes.
So do you find that new people coming in or people re-entering the industry, is there like a passion for driving there? Or would you say that they're just like, well, this job's needed, so I'm gonna come do my job?
Now I get a little bit of that, but I
Yeah.
do get a lot of the, my grandpa, my uncle, my dad, they were
Yeah.
all drivers, so it's in my family, so I've got to do this and I've got to do a good job.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of that, and I actually get a lot of, well, my dad's a driver too, and I ask, well, where's he at? Put him on the phone.
Yeah.
So then we have like a big conversation because
Yeah.
the dad knows what he's doing and he knows what, is going on.
Yeah.
So I still think there's a lot of passion out there.
That's good.
Um, and then we have, and I don't know if you've seen it, it's called the relaunch program. So it's for drivers that may have thought they were going to get out of the truck. And we get so many calls. Nikki, thought I was going to retire 2 years ago. It's in my blood. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So we bring them back in. So I still think there's a lot of it out there.
Yeah. I've done campaigns for some of those companies that are doing things like that. We put out like a one sheeter, we'll email it to them or send it to them, and it's like, this is what we can do for you, we miss you, whatever. So
Right.
those are definitely big in the industry, definitely. And my final and favorite question to ask, what is the strangest question or request that you've gotten from an applicant?
So I did do some thinking with this because
Okay.
I've got such a long list of them. Um, I had a driver. He was in the final stages, getting ready to come to orientation. And we always go over, we call it an integrity sheet, which basically just highlights everything we've talked about, kind of a recap.
Yeah.
And he's like, Nikki, well, there's one thing we didn't get to talk about. So that always like red flags me. I'm like, what did I forget?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, so do you guys require uniforms? And he's a flatbed driver.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you got to have your PPE and your vest and your steel-toed boots, but we don't per se have a whole uniform for you.
Sure.
And he was like, well, that's a blessing because I got a weird one for you. And I'm like, all right. He said he wanted to know if it was acceptable that he wears onesies while he drives,
Oh,
because he's got a whole collection of them. He had Star Wars, he had animals, he had Halloween costumes, he had a Hello Kitty one. And his customers, and he was at his previous job for, I want to say like 7 years.
yeah.
His customers had grew accustomed to coming outside to see what he was tarping in this year or this
Yeah.
week or this delivery. So he's like, I just don't want you to get a call that, Hello Kitty is out here tarping a load and for you to be surprised. So that was absolutely hilarious. And I'm like,
That
if you're
is.
safe with your vest outside of the onesie, your
Yeah.
glasses, your steel-toed boots, go for it.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, it was hilarious. So
That's great.
yeah,
You
yeah,
might get a call about Hello Kitty, but you'll be like, yeah,
we
that's so and
know.
so. Don't mind him. He's just having
Yes,
fun. Yeah, I
there
love
was
that.
a picture of him on a TikTok. Somebody had gotten him in like a rubber ducky one,
Yeah,
and he was just out there tarping a load. And I'm like,
that's
well, he's
awesome.
happy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love to hear that.
So
Good for him. I
yes,
love that.
ma'am. Yeah.
Well, thank you
Yep.
so much for your time. I will let you know when this is live. But again,
Okay.
thank you, and I look forward to talking with you again sometime soon.
No problem. Thank you. You have a good day.
Thanks. You too. Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye.